Okay, welcome to another edition of Real Riders Ride. I am your host, the Spoiler. And as you can see, our setup is a little different today because we got a special guest here, my man, the biker, Andrew, who is the lead attorney for Steel Horse Law Firm.
That's right. I'm the senior Wisconsin partner for Steel Horse Law.
Gotcha.
We're in 3 states.
3 states.
And
right.
I'm the senior partner in Wisconsin.
Primarily in the South.
Right. Georgia's the main office. We got Tennessee.
Okay.
And last year we brought the brand to Wisconsin.
Gotcha.
I've been here for 33 years doing
So
it.
you've lived in Wisconsin for 33 years or just
My whole life. I'm
Your whole
59 years old.
Gotcha.
33 years doing motorcycle law in Wisconsin. But
Okay.
we brought the Steel Horse brand here
last year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. So you have a distinguished career as an attorney in bikers' rights. As far as accidents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been fighting for bikers' rights my whole life.
Gotcha. Okay.
And everybody's rights. I do criminal defense, traffic defense, so we do motorcycle
Okay,
injuries.
so you kind of cover the gamut of it. Okay. Now,
I believe in protecting people's rights.
gotcha. So now the thing is, what they don't know is how you get down as a biker.
Well,
There's a long history there, and
man,
we're
I
going
have
to
some
get it
stories.
tonight. Right.
All good bikers have stories.
There you go. There you go.
Let's see. First time I rode a motorcycle.
And that's what I usually ask people. How did you get into it?
Well, I mean, I was like a lot of kids. When you first get a bicycle,
Sure.
the first thing you do is you take it down the street to your friend's house and get a pliers and a wrench and start changing
wrenching.
out the wheels.
That's what's up.
Let's see, this wheel look
We're
better
gonna
on your
customize
bike.
this bad boy.
Let's change that. And I've been doing that, ever since I was a little kid.
Sure.
And I remember, I don't know if it was the first time I was ever on a motorcycle, but pretty close to it. I was maybe 12, 13 years old. And
Sure.
It wasn't far from here because we lived in Glendale.
Okay, so you live in the Milwaukee area.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember hearing about earlier this year, there was a guy who lived on Port Washington Road by the name of Peter Holzberger. He got robbed and killed in his house. It was all over the news. He was a very eccentric guy.
Yeah, eccentric, kind of laid back.
Ardent environmentalist, wouldn't cut his lawn, and everybody drove by and knew the house
Right, sure.
by the railroad tracks because it was all overgrown, and
Sure.
that was just how he rolled. He believed in going natural.
Hey, that's
So this would have been in about 1967 or something like that.
Okay.
Peter lived in that house, and he had bought himself a brand new Suzuki, and he let me borrow it.
Oh, I bet you that was a thrill.
Yeah, I was about 12, 13 years old, and I took it out, and within 5 minutes, I crashed it and wrecked it bad. And I was road rash from top to bottom. And it was awful, but I fixed Peter's bike for him and got it all straight.
Sure.
Peter and I were friends and kept riding. Didn't own a bike for a number of years.
Okay.
At some point in my life, and at this point I was married, I had kids, I was a lawyer. A guy paid me a legal fee.
Okay.
I still know the guy; he's a good guy.
Right.
He paid me a legal fee with a Honda CB 650.
Okay. Okay, now we're talking, right?
And it was this would have been in the early 80s, so the bike was a 70s super bike.
Sure.
And I didn't even have a car back then. I was just getting my feet under me as a lawyer.
Right.
And I decided I wanted to trade that motorcycle for a car so that I could, get to court.
Sure.
And you're not going to, the guy traded it to me for, this was not a motorcycle, a car, a Triumph GT6. I don't know if you remember those cars.
No.
A little British sports car.
Sure, the little...
Like a TR6,
Right.
except for it had a fastback roofline.
Gotcha.
GT6.
Gotcha.
And the thing was totally beat to hell.
Okay.
So I spent about the next year wrenching on the GT6, learned how to rebuild the transmission, rebuild the motor, do the body work,
Finding parts and all that stuff.
all of that. And so...
I bet you when you're done with that, it's
it was a great looking car. But Triumph cars were not known for reliability. One day I'm driving down the street and I blew the differential. Another day this would,
It's the money pit now, right?
I remember in my hands, if you're wrenching all the time. I remember one day I was in court I'm representing a guy in court, arguing a case in court. And as I'm talking, the bailiff walks up behind me and whispers in my ear, "What the hell happened to your hands?" So, but I kind of got the bug for wrenching. So I bought a junkyard MG midget car. I don't know if you remember
Yes.
this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I
And
think
this would have
everybody
been-
wanted a midget too.
Yeah, they're little things,
Yeah.
smaller than an MGB.
Right.
That would have been in about 91.
Okay.
And over the winter in my driveway, I tore the thing down, all the way down, frame. That was a unibody car, so it didn't have a frame.
Right.
But I mean, we took everything off of it, so it was a bare frame, doors out, everything.
Okay.
Busted it all down, and I put it back together as a SCCA race car. I started vintage, and then the next year, I turned it into a race car.
Okay.
And I raced that thing for several years in an organization called Midwestern Council of Sports Car Clubs.
Okay.
It's like a SCCA.
Sure. Sure.
I won a bunch of races.
Okay.
I was Rookie of the Year in '93.
Oh wow.
I won the F production category.
Mm-hmm.
Then I decided I wanted to get into a faster category, so I bought a Lola Formula Ford.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Same thing. It was beat to hell.
Right. Right.
You
Gotta work on
know,
it.
now
Get
you're
up
talking
to
about a factory race car.
Okay.
So all it was basically an engine that you strapped to your back with some controls.
Right. Right. Right.
4 wheels.
Right.
I mean,
And hold on.
and just so you know, the things, you know, these are one of these cars that it's rear engine, you lay in it, open wheel,
Okay.
single seat. And this thing was so tight on me that as I breathed, you could see the bodywork go.
Oh wow.
in,
It's
out,
flexing
in,
out. Yeah.
It's just,
And the controls are really tight. in it.
oh yeah. The steering wheel is about 6 inches around.
Oh, wow.
You know, the shifter is
Oh, wow.
right there on top of your thigh.
That's a tight fit there.
Oh yeah, and the damn thing went about 160 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
So I raced that for a couple of years and smashed it to hell and sold it off as parts. And then way in the back of my garage, gathering dust, was a guy had owed me some money years earlier, didn't have the money, but he gave me his 1979 KZ1000 Mark II. And I never, you know, it just sat in the back
It just
of the
sat
garage.
there. Right.
So now I didn't have a race car, and I pulled that thing up. And I've been working on it ever since. So that would have been 1999.
Oh wow.
I still got the
Still got the
KZ1000.
KZ. Okay.
Still trying to figure out what I want to do with it.
Okay.
I've thought about stripping it out and making it into a vintage racer. I did go through it and turned it into a Street Fighter chop.
Sure. Sure.
So that was the first bike I had in my adult life.
Okay.
I've had a bunch since then. The next bike I got, I decided I wanted to go racing motorcycles.
Okay.
And I had some friends that were vintage racing motorcycles.
Sure.
And that's a very cool scene.
Sure.
And they were vintage racing Honda 350s, which are, you know, you can buy them for $200.
Right. You buy them cheap.
And there's a whole race culture around
Sure.
them. And
Sure. And parts galore now.
parts galore and hot rod parts.
Right.
Lots of aftermarket.
Right.
I mean, you can get 60, 70 horsepower out of those things. So
Nice.
they will boogie.
Nice. Nice.
So I built up one of those, and the problem with vintage racing is that there's only one big vintage race in Wisconsin. every
Gotcha.
year. So what are you gonna do? You got to
Right,
bike
the rest of
race
the
it
time,
once.
Right. And you got
So I entered in the current era class.
Okay.
Now, that would be CCS series.
Okay.
And we raced it at Road America, and we raced it at Black Hawk
So it
Mountain
gave you a
Raceway.
little bit more of a circuit to race it on.
Yeah, there was a race every weekend.
Oh
The
God.
problem was, this would have been, I don't know, mid-2000s sometime. I was racing against, you remember the Suzuki SV650?
Sure.
The V-twin 650? It was a hot
That's a
bike.
hot bike.
Yeah, well, that's what I was racing this Honda 350 against. So, boom, it was like getting passed by the space shuttle. So I went and got a beater $800 600cc Kawasaki.
Yeah.
Raced that and blew the motor. Then I decided I I don't know if you're familiar with supermoto racing.
Yeah, supermoto. Yeah.
So it's on like a go-kart track, but then they take and do some of it on dirt.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
So it's like racing a dirt bike because you know how in road racing you put a knee down, the bike is on top and you're underneath it.
Right.
But in dirt racing, the bike's underneath you.
Right. And you're steady turning that throttle as you
right,
go around.
And you might have a leg out instead of a knee down.
Right.
And the bike's underneath you. So these guys are racing supermoto on dirt bikes. So it's the, you know, get the bike underneath you, slide it sideways.
Sure.
But they're doing this on asphalt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And for the first time in my life, I decided I was going to actually get a competitive race bike. So I went to the store and I ordered it from the factory.
Oh, really?
KTM 560cc single cylinder factory supermoto race bike.
Okay,
Straight out of the box.
I'm in there.
This bike wins races.
Right. I'm in there now.
Yeah, that's when I realized that I couldn't ride as fast as those other guys. But I had great fun with it. I got hurt on it a couple of times.
Sure.
And one of the things that the vintage race series had done in order to just fill out the grids, get more people entering, was they had a category for non-vintage single-cylinder bikes.
Okay.
And guys would bring their supermoto bikes out. Because supermoto bikes, for audience who doesn't know, they're like dirt bikes.
Sure.
Except you run 17-inch road wheels with big, fat, hairy slicks on them.
Right.
And,
Right.
and about 80% of the course will be a twisting, winding road course, and then 20% of it's on dirt with jumps and stuff. So
Sure.
you get airborne.
You get some of everything
And
in supermoto too.
You know, you run slicks even in the dirt, because if you run dirt tires,
Right. You won't be
you
able
won't
to do
be competitive. So you just learn how to run slicks in dirt.
Wow.
And
That's,
it's a heck of a lot
I
of
was
fun.
gonna say,
They still do it. There's a
it's heavy
supermoto
ride.
setup out at Road America. They do it about 10 times a year.
Oh wow. At least it gives them a circuit to
Yeah.
run on, you know.
So, in order to give guys more seat time, I would take my supermoto bike out to the vintage races just to get track time.
Okay.
And then one winter, I really worked over that old Honda 350
Okay.
that I was talking about,
Right.
which I still have.
Right.
And I mean, I really worked it over.
Sure.
It's a really nice vintage race bike now. And
It works on it.
this year, Steel Horse Law is sponsoring some really good road racers. Wes Orloff
That's
and his
what I
wife
hear.
Leah Orloff.
That's what I hear. I'm gonna have to go see some of that.
And well, Wes placed second in the Pikes Peak last year.
Okay.
And both of them last year went out to Bonneville for land speed runs.
Gotcha.
And I mean, they're winners.
Gotcha.
So I turned the 350 over to them.
Oh, really?
And they're going to be running it this year.
Gotcha. That sounds.
The last time I was on a race motorcycle was at Road America. I was on the 350, and some, as we call them on the racetrack, some squid
Right. Right.
who didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
If you know Road America, there's a very fast corner at Road America called Canada Corner.
Okay.
It's not quite 90 degrees. It's about 80 degrees,
Still.
and it's banked a little
Yeah.
bit. So, and it's at the end of a long straightaway.
Yeah.
So it's basically you peg that sucker
right in there.
and lean it in and whammo, and it's wide. So it's very fast. And it's a turn to the right, and like in any racing, outside, inside, outside.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So I'm outside, and I make my move to the apex, and this guy tries to outbrake me, loses control of his bike. He's not even on his bike anymore. And his bike, and I'm leaned over into the corner.
Right.
And his bike hits me in the shoulder. So,
It knocks you, right?
yeah. Luckily, even though I broke my shoulder, the 350 was okay.
Yeah, to make sure the bike is all right.
All right. So anyway,
That's a common story, though.
so that was the last time I was on a race bike.
Gotcha.
The bike is okay. We're still running it. I've taken up bicycle racing, which is something I did as a kid.
Okay.
Try to keep the fat off.
Get some exercise.
And honestly, the bike racing I do, which is mountain bike, it's dirt bikes, the motorcycle experience helps. I found that in the downhill sections or where it's really fast and twisty, I can go past people because they're afraid of speed.
Okay. So I see the need for speed in you and the competitiveness in you. You know.
So what else have I done? Oh, a couple other interesting things I've done on bikes. One of my favorite form of biking is dual sport.
Okay.
And that's sort of, I mean, if you look at me, I'm a middle-aged lawyer.
Okay.
And you see these guys out there, they're usually on Beamers, and they're wearing all Gore-Tex, and they're on those dirt bikes that you see out on the highway with the ammo cans in the back.
Sure.
Those guys, right? Well, I'm kind of that scene.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Right.
Because those bikes are designed for pavement or dirt.
Right. And they kind of work both.
You go on off. And the entry level bike in that scene, which in my view is still the best bike, is a Kawasaki KLR 650.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, brand new, I think they're $6,000 on the showroom floor.
Right.
They have 35 horsepower. They'll cruise all day at 70 miles an hour, which is all you need. There's a million of them on the road, so parts are everywhere. And they're simple. You can pull stumps with them. They got tons of torque off the bottom.
So they run.
Yeah, I mean they're great. They're perfect for that.
So what you're telling these cats is, if you're in that middle-aged category, right, you can go and get that bike right now at the showroom floor, and let's go racing.
Well, I don't know if you'd race a KLR 650.
Right.
But here's what you do with it.
Right.
So I got one.
Okay.
And I got on the internet.
Using you as the example, you got one.
Yeah, I got one, and you get the bags for it and all that stuff.
Right.
And and I recommend soft bags, not hard bags, because you're going to dump the thing. You don't want to crack your hard bags.
Right. You'll be steady buying bags.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and it's plastic bodywork. It's made to be thrown away and replaced.
Gotcha.
It's not like the fancy shiny stuff.
Right.
And I hooked up with a group of people out of Minneapolis on the internet. And for several years, we would truck them down to Presidio, Texas in like February. And
when it's cold here.
And warm there. There's a place near the Mexican border called Terlingua Ranch. It might be closed now. It was open then.
Right.
For those of your viewers who are in the know, they'll know Terlingua Ranch.
Okay.
Do you remember the car designer and the guy who owned the race team, Carroll Shelby?
Sure. Oh, sure.
And Shelby Cobras.
Right.
All right.
Everybody knows Shelby.
Right.
Yeah.
That was his headquarters.
Gotcha. So you got a major facility here today.
Well, actually, it was a shithole. It was 14 miles down a dirt road in the desert in Texas along the border with a bunch of shacks.
Really?
That's all it was.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we would headquarter there. We would all rendezvous there at Terlingua Ranch. They rented rooms. They had a little cafe you could eat at.
Okay.
Wasn't much. And from there, we would unpack all our stuff out of the trucks and trailers, and get on our dirt bikes or dual sport bikes.
Dual sport. Cross
the border, and spend 3.5 weeks every winter riding around Mexico on the dual sport bikes. We would roll into the first night. We would spend on the highway, and we'd roll into Chihuahua. And Chihuahua's a big city. It's as big as Milwaukee.
Sure.
And a lot of fun.
Have a good time.
Yeah,
right?
Have a good time. Then we might spend a few days there. Then we'd roll out of Chihuahua, and about half a day out of Chihuahua, the pavement ends. And from there until the Pacific Ocean, no pavement.
No pavement. You were on.
And we would, the guys I was with knew their way around.
Gotcha.
So we always had a town to go into at night.
Okay. Somewhere to bunk out and whatnot.
Yeah, we didn't tent out. It's not safe.
Sure. Right.
Not, everybody knows how dangerous the drug wars have been in Mexico.
Right.
Well, this was right where that was all happening.
You cats is on an adventure for real.
So, the area that Mexico is called the Copper Canyon, El Barranco del Cobre. The most gorgeous thing you've ever seen. Bigger than the Grand Canyon.
I bet.
Unbelievable biking. Wonderful people. Beautiful little villages.
Sure.
And most of the places we rode were so remote that unless you were in a village at night, if you were just out on the highway they were all dirt roads.
Oh, dirt roads.
Most of the people didn't even speak Spanish. They were indigenous people
Indigenous,
that spoke
right.
native languages.
Right. And if you didn't know the language, you were just out, right?
Nobody knows the language
Right.
but them.
Right.
If
You don't
you're
know
not Aztec, you don't speak Aztec. They weren't Aztecs. They were the Mexicans called them the Tarahumara.
Okay.
But they called themselves the Rararmuri, which is they're long distance runners.
Sure.
And I believe what Rararmuri means in their language is the people who run.
Run.
Anyway,
Hey, history lesson. That's
Yeah.
what we're always about.
so we would roll in there and just, there were some incidents, as you might expect.
Now, how many people we're talking about on this trip?
We're talking about, one year we had 11 people, another year we had 19.
Okay.
It's an area where there are tourists. We weren't the only people around. That we would occasionally decide we wanted to get off the beaten path, and that's when people would start looking at us sideways.
Who are these guys, right?
Yeah, like one day we wanted to see a canyon called the Sinfarosa Canyon, which is gorgeous and magnificent. And we decided we were going to ride over to Sinfarosa, which was not really a tourist area.
Sure.
So we do that. And we stop and, there's we see this on the map, and my Spanish, you're down there for a few weeks, you pick up enough Spanish to get by. But so we get into this basically a crossroad, gas station, a little cantina. And the funny thing was there was a hotel at this place. It was two dirt roads crossing each other, there was a hotel.
Hotel.
What the hell's a hotel doing there? So we go into the cantina, and normally Mexican people are wonderful people. They're extremely friendly, especially to tourists.
Sure.
The woman who ran this cantina was not friendly. And, we ordered and we sat down and we're waiting for our food. And she just got a mean look on her face. And not that she was mean to us. It's just like, where's the hugs and all this stuff?
Right.
So we got, 15 motorcycles out in front.
Right.
And then we noticed that this pickup truck pulls up. Okay. And a couple of guys get out, and Mexican guys, not Indians, and you can tell.
Sure.
They're wearing cowboy clothes, Western hats and stuff.
Fine.
And they just come in and they start looking at us. Don't say anything.
Just kind of staring.
They're just staring at us. Pretty soon, a couple more.
Uh-oh.
Another pickup truck. And a couple more. And there was about 8 or 10 of them after a few minutes. And they're all just staring at us.
Just staring.
And they're not saying hello. Then one of them seemed like he was just a weird guy, like he wasn't all there mentally. He was talking with us and joking around, and he was just sort of like a crazy guy.
Right.
And we're all looking at each other, and of course we're not totally fluent in Spanish, and they don't speak a word of English, and we think we're about to get robbed. That's what we, we're out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
They're never going to find our bodies.
Right.
And, we're a bunch of American tourists. Between the 10 of us, we had enough money to, a lot of money for,
Especially,
northwestern Mexico, thousands of dollars. So we figure this is it. And it goes to show you the kind of stereotypes you can jump to where you think something's going to happen. Because that's what we really thought. Like,
Sure.
oh hell, these people are going to jack us.
You're like, uh-oh, this don't look good.
This don't look good. So let's just finish up our food and quietly get on our bikes and get out of here.
Looks like a plan.
Sounded like a plan. So we're all doing this and we're pretty nervous. We finish our food, we get on our bikes, we start rolling. And then I realized it. These guys are all in brand new, tricked out pickup trucks. They got more money than we do.
Right. You're looking at, wait a minute.
Yeah, and I mean, some of them, like a couple of Escalades, mostly just Ford F-150s, but
Sure.
all spotless.
Sure.
And, then I figured it out. Los narcotraficantes. They were drug dealers, of course.
Right.
And we were just, so the question is, what are they going to do with us?
Right.
I don't think they had anything against us. They just didn't want strangers in their business.
Sure.
And they certainly didn't mean us any harm because that wasn't going to keep things quiet for them. All they wanted to do was do business. But
Right.
they did not want
you
us
there.
around.
They didn't want you there.
They made that real clear. So
Right.
we get on our bikes and we start riding out of the town, which all it was an intersection.
Mm-hmm.
And we got this line of pickup trucks following us. And at this point, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm just not gonna. So I stop my bike. Pickup truck pulls next to me. I just, I'm pretending there's something wrong with my bike.
Sure,
I'm fixing it.
sure.
'Cause I just want to see what's up with these
Right.
guys. And I look at the guy and he says, he kind of looks at me and says, "Hi, what are you doing?" And clearly, he didn't know English. The way he said it, you could tell.
Right.
And I just said, soy solamente turista. I'm only a tourist.
Right.
And he says to me, "I'm the sheriff." He said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm leaving."
Right.
And he didn't know what that meant.
Okay.
And clearly, he didn't know what I was saying. So I got back on my motorcycle and I started riding, and they followed us for a couple miles, and then they just stopped and they were gone. And, we thought, great. But for the next, remember, we're on dirt roads. You can't go fast. We might average 10, 15 miles an hour.
Right.
Because roads are really treacherous.
Right. It's not like it's
So
kind of half
for the
paved.
next, I don't know, 10 or 20 miles, every few miles, we saw a guy standing by the side of the road just watching us. And at first I thought they were packing side-ups.
Sure.
And no doubt they were armed to the teeth, but I never saw a gun.
Right.
And then at one point I slowed down and looked real close. They didn't have guns on their hips. They had sat phones.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So they were like, okay, the gringos are gone.
Right. Hey, everybody's telling them they're going that way.
Yeah. So there were other incidents.
Sure.
One time in Mexico, prostitution is legal.
Okay.
And the prostitutes keep bankers' hours. They work 8 to 4 and then they go home to their families. And the whorehouses are not open at night in a lot of places. So
Okay.
we roll into this town. And there's a guy who was riding with us who was a doctor. His name's Arturo, Dr. Arturo. He's from Chihuahua.
Okay.
He's a great riding companion.
Right.
Rode a BMW. And there's no hotel in this town other than the whorehouse, which has a bunch of rooms. And so, and the whores service, they mine gold and silver and they grow marijuana and
The whole 9
Yeah.
yards. Yeah.
so Arturo manages to secure this brothel for us to sleep in that night with, probably had 10 rooms. There were enough rooms. But of course, the rooms were filthy.
Yeah.
And so we managed to get somebody to clean them for us and, they put fresh sheets on the beds and it was okay.
Right.
They were nice. And
You're out for adventure.
just like you would think, the whole place was run by about a 60-year-old woman who was selling candy bars and stuff in the lobby. And,
Sure.
she ran the joint and her kids and her family. And
Right.
so we are in the hotel kind of hanging out on a balcony overlooking the town. This town probably had 1,000 or 2,000 people in it. It was pretty big.
Okay.
And we find some beer and we're drinking beer. And I think we pay somebody from the hotel to bring us a couple of cases of beer. And a guy walks in, a Mexican guy. He's not wearing Mexican clothes though. He's dressed like an American. He's wearing a baseball cap and sports clothes and that kind of thing. And he, in broken Spanish and English, this I think was the night the next night after the summer
After the
incident.
other.
Yeah. So
You guys are kind of leery about what's going on, right?
So, well, no, these guys were nice.
Okay.
And, you know, we were drinking beer with them and hanging out on the balcony and, you know, just kind of like, and he says, where are you going? And we were going to a town, let me see if I can remember the name of the town. Barbarossa? Baragosa was
Okay.
our next stop that night, which was on the other side of the Sinfarosa Canyon. And,
Shit, the way y'all travel, you need 3 weeks to.
oh yeah. So he says, how long will it take you to get there? Well, it'll take us 8.5 hours. He says, I'm gonna be there in 15 minutes in the morning. I'm like, how are you gonna get to Barbarossa in 15 minutes? Because we're, you know, it's a remember, we gotta go from the bottom of this canyon
Okay.
up 7,000 feet on gravel switchbacks,
So you see,
which was the most fun I ever had on a motorcycle. we twisted the throttle up that climb.
right.
And like, how the hell are you gonna do it? Because we can do faster than trucks.
Sure.
He's like, oh, I got a plane. So one of the guys had brought his teenage son along. This guy's a lawyer from Kansas City.
Okay.
And he had his like 17-year-old son riding with us.
Okay.
And the son is with us drinking beer. It's okay with the dad.
Right.
And he looks at the guy and he says to him, what do you do for a living?
Gotta love those kids, right?
And the guy's jaw just drops. And he kind of puts his hand on the kid's shoulder and says, se vende marijuana.
There you go.
Okay. Then he says to me, soy jefe aquí. I'm the boss around here. And then he says to me in English, I like you guys. If somebody messes with you, I'll have them killed for you.
Hey.
So, and you know, that was okay. We were having fun with the guy, and I thought it was all a bunch of BS, just some local guy talking.
Running his mouth.
Yeah, running his mouth.
Right.
We get up the next morning early to start our ride to
Sure.
Baragosa, and there's next to the hotel, we didn't see it, but is a dirt airstrip, and he's taken off and, you know, gives us a wave as he flies away.
And you're like, yeah.
All right, I got one more story for you.
Gotcha.
One more Mexico story. And by the way, I don't think, I'm telling you the exciting stories, but I think Mexico's a great place, and I would encourage anybody to go to the Copper Canyon. It's safer than Milwaukee.
Gotcha.
It's just, you know, we got way off the beaten path. We went into drug country.
Yeah, it sounds like
And,
y'all were really out there.
Nobody threatened us other than staring at us, which
Sure.
I've been told in that part of the world, that's how they threaten you.
Right,
They
right.
call it, they down there, they call it talking with their hats. But,
Yeah.
you know, as long as we left, it was all right.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a wonderful town down there. And I mean, it's one of the nicest places I've ever been in my whole life.
Gotcha.
It's called Batapilas. And it's at the bottom of the Batapilas Canyon in the Copper Canyon area on I think the Rio Batapilas. And this town is just gorgeous. And it's a tourist.
Tourist town.
Yeah.
Okay. Super friendly.
Super friendly, maybe 5,000-6,000 people live in it, you know, half a dozen hotels.
Right.
On any given night in the tourist season, there might be 100 tourists in town.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
enough so that you're
You're
Yeah.
feeling comfortable about
yeah,
where you are.
and you know, great food and wonderful people, and like in Mexico, every town has a square, and at night families come out to the town square, and the kids run around, and it's just great.
Gotcha.
And like Mexico, it's a cross between people riding donkeys and people in brand new pickup trucks.
Right.
You won't find cars in this area of the world because the roads are too rough.
Right. Too rough for cars and trucks.
So we roll into Batapilas. And by the way, Batapilas, to give you a little history, was in roughly 200 years ago, was the home of the second largest silver mine in the world. And it was one of the first cities in North America to have electricity.
There you go.
So there's all these gorgeous old buildings there that are kind of falling apart now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. This sounds like it was a good tourist.
Oh
town.
yeah, just a great place. So we roll in, and it's a narrow city. It's got like a main drag that's a mile or two long, and not much on either side because it's at the bottom of a canyon and a river.
Okay.
And as we're rolling on the main drag, we notice one of the buildings looks like it's shot up. There's a couple of cars that have their windows shot out, and we look around, we see some shell casings.
Okay.
Like, what the hell's going on? We didn't think a ton about it,
Right.
and that wasn't quite in the area of town where we were staying.
Okay.
We didn't give it a lot of thought. We go to, we find the hotels we were gonna stay at, and we bed down, and we go out to dinner. And restaurants there are nice and cheap. You gotta understand, you can get a room in this part of the world for $10.
Sure.
You can get a great meal
Great
for
meal.
3 or 4.
Right. Great local meal too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Some good
Right.
local fruits and vegetables and everything else to go along with it.
So, when we get in there, there's an American guy in the restaurant, and he's got a dirt bike, and so we are asking him where you're riding, what you're doing.
Sure.
And he tells us the story. He actually did not ride his bike down to Batopilas, which is at the bottom of about a 7,000-foot cliff.
Okay.
And you'll piss your pants riding down this cliff if you're not used to it.
Right,
Because
right,
it's
'cause
like, you put a wheel off, you're dead.
Right. Yeah.
It's so
That's
cool.
some adventure for you.
Oh, it's so cool. You got it. It's so worthwhile.
Right.
And once you get used to it, you don't even think twice about it.
Really?
But he was in his pickup truck, which was a camper, and he had his bike like on a bike rack on the back of the pickup truck.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
he and his wife and their dog and their infant child were sleeping in this camper and touring, and had come into Batopilas, where he would unload his dirt bike and ride
Go
around.
ride around. See.
And her parents, wife's parents, were in another camper. So it was a caravan of these 2 pickup trucks with campers.
Wow.
And, you got to go like 3 miles an hour on
Sure,
these roads.
sure.
And so they got into Batopilas, and they parked their campers. They, pay a local, can I park here? And it was nighttime, as he told me the story. And they were all asleep in the camper. The baby, the dog, him and his wife, and on the other side of the building, her parents asleep in their camper.
Okay.
And they start hearing the gunfight.
Okay. All right. It's on
Lots and lots and lots of pop, 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 pop,
now.
pop.
It's on and cracking.
Yeah,
now.
it's on.
Right.
So they get down on the floor
Right.
of the camper, and they just hunker down.
Sure.
And I said, well, didn't the dog start howling or barking? He said, no.
Dog knows now.
Yeah, all right. So did the baby cry? No. Totally quiet.
Right.
And so he said this went on for like an hour or more.
Wow.
And then it stopped. And so he like pokes a head up and looks around, doesn't see anything, and decides he's going to see what's going on, see if the coast is clear. And so he gets out of the truck and he kind of walks into the street. I'm going to stand up.
Sure. Sure.
And he's walking, looking around, and he sees, all the shell casings, and then he hears somebody yelling, "Manos! Manos!" Hands.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha.
And he's like, "Okay, hands up."
Right.
And a bunch of guys in uniforms, they look like federales,
Sure.
come out like, "What the hell are you doing here? what is going on?" And he in his broken Spanish says, he tries to explain to him, "My wife and baby are in that truck. Her parents are in that truck." And they're like, "Holy shit, get the hell out of here." So they get their trucks out of there.
Right.
And then they start up the gunfight again. It continues. What this was there was a guy holed up in the building,
Okay.
shooting
Down
down
there.
on these guys who were shooting up at him, and he walked right into the middle of it. And they held like a truce to get him out of there.
Wow. You want to say somebody's fortunate.
That's the story he told us.
Okay.
Now, I wasn't there. I
Right.
don't know how true it is, but I can tell you, I did see the building shot up, the windows shot out, the cars shot up, the shell casings on the street. And I saw his pickup truck parked there. So it sounds pretty real.
Wow.
The story we heard, the people in Batopilas that we talked to about it were totally upset about it because it's a tourist town. They don't want
That messes
trouble.
with their economy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But of course, marijuana is their economy.
Sure.
It's just the way it is, and it's all family there. So the chief, whoever the chief of police is, his cousin is the marijuana farmer, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So the story I heard was that the guy, the story that was told when these people rolled into town was that these guys with the uniforms were federales who were hunting this fugitive who holed up and started shooting at them, and they were arresting him and taking him to justice. And in fact, they did finally, he ran out of bullets or whatever, and they took him away.
Okay.
And they disappeared. But then we find out they weren't really the federales. And that what he really was he was some guy who had ripped off a drug dealer.
Sure.
And these weren't federales, these were
The hired
hired hands for the drug dealer.
Sure.
And then about 24 hours later, the real federales actually rolled into town.
Right.
Remember, to get into this town, it's 8 hours on a dirt road where the only way to get in there and surprise somebody is in a helicopter.
Sure.
If you're in a truck, they'll know you're coming 12 hours away.
Right.
So that's the story we heard, that this guy had ripped somebody off and he was never seen or heard from again.
paid the
And the
price for that.
federales, by the time they got there, it was all over.
It's all over and done with. Nobody just clean this mess up and keep
And
going.
despite all those great stories,
Right.
I would go back there in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah, it
And
sounds like it.
the group that I would go with still goes every year.
Okay.
The last time I was there, I think, was now 6 years ago,
Okay.
and they haven't missed a year since, and they haven't had an incident since.
There you go.
yeah.
I bet you they're kind of like a fixture now.
Well, and they speak good. They speak Spanish
Pick
very
up the
well at this
language.
point. But you know what? It's not that hard. You go down there, and in 2 weeks, you're rolling with
Kind
it.
of off and running.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That
So
sounds like
that's
you
my-
plan on going back though?
Oh yeah, someday.
All right.
I work hard now, but
Yeah.
1 year we did a trip. We rode to the KTM National Rally, which was in Riggins, Utah,
Okay.
and so that was about 1,500 miles from here. And we took pavement to Mount Rushmore, and then it was dirt the rest of the way. So about half pavement, half dirt.
Sure. Sure.
That was cool. That's the kind of thing I love.
Oh man, that sounds like some good riding.
Yeah.
As long as you're doing it on two wheels, that's good. Good
Yeah.
enough for me. You know. Wow. Sounds like some good riding. What other kind of adventures you got planned for yourself like that?
Well, I mean, we're busy with Steel Horse.
Sure.
This year we're sponsoring the flat track racing at Aztalan.
Okay.
We've got 2 riders we're sponsoring. Morgan Mishlove, who's 17 years old
That's what she
and
was saying.
lightning fast.
Yeah.
And the Mishlove family has been flat track racing up in the Beaver Dam area for decades.
decades, yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
it's a dynasty up there.
I'm gonna have to get up there and see.
Oh
this
yeah,
young man
and
get
we're
that.
they have a family racetrack. The grandparents have a farm. There's a racetrack on their farm.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So you know what you're
It's
getting into
called-
when you grow up
It's
into
called
this bad.
It's called the Beaver Cycle Club. We're going to sponsor that this year too.
Oh. Okay.
We have a racer, Tom Hotchmuth, who's a really fast senior guy. So we're sponsoring both the races at those 2 flat tracks and 2 racers. And if you've never seen flat track racing, it's on the dirt. It's on a dirt oval. The oval's usually a quarter mile. The Beaver one is smaller because it's in the backyard.
Sure.
Really. It's about I don't know. Less than a quarter mile.
Okay.
Aztalan as you're driving to Madison on I-94, you notice there's the motorcycle racetrack out there,
Right.
and they have motocross and flat track, and you can look over and just see the flat
See
track.
'em, yeah.
Quarter-mile oval. If you've never seen flat track racing like that, it is a hoot. These guys hang it out there, throttle wide open,
Sure.
sliding sideways
Sure.
on the dirt on big, powerful
Getting
bikes.
it in. No, they doing that every weekend. It's a weekly
It's-
series.
I guess they probably have about 6 of them in the season.
Okay.
And then there's also half-mile
Okay.
racetracks. There's not too many of them in the state. And the bigger racetracks, the speeds are a lot
Lot faster,
higher,
yeah.
and they take bigger bikes out on them. So, for people who like sport bikes, and I love sport bikes, and I love road racing,
Okay.
we're really lucky around here because we're so close to Road America.
Right. Right.
And Road America is one of the best tracks in the world.
Right. That's the mecca up there, right?
And every weekend or once a summer is the AMA Superbike
Superbike
weekend,
races. Right.
and some of the world's best riders up there.
Right.
Great teams. Michael Jordan has a team.
That's yeah.
It's headquartered just outside of Milwaukee in the old Harley Davidson works.
Okay. A lot of people don't know that here. They don't know.
They don't know that right outside of Milwaukee in Oconomowoc is Michael Jordan Motorsports, where he has a shop where they prepare and race
Suzuki's,
race
right.
bikes, and they're sponsored by the United States military. It's a big time operation.
Right.
He's got champion quality racers.
I saw some video
Yeah.
on that, and
It's
they're really
the real
doing some
deal. And then not too far away from him, within a couple of miles, is Eric Buell
Buell,
Racing.
right.
Another world-class operation.
I like the bikes he builds.
And Eric Buell is jumping this year from AMA to World Superbike.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
he's going to be touring the whole world with his stuff.
Oh, wow.
His sponsor is, help me out. Oh, God, I feel like a fool for not knowing this.
Don't.
Hero.
Okay.
And I'd never heard of Hero, but it turns out they're the world's, volume-wise, number of units-wise, not dollar-wise. They are the world's biggest manufacturer of motorcycles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they sell tons and tons and tons of inexpensive motorcycles in India, in China,
Sure,
in
sure.
Asia,
And those
in
markets
South
that
America.
use those
Right, so it's the
smaller bikes.
world's largest manufacturer of motorcycles in terms of numbers of motorcycles. They sponsor him, and so he's very well financed.
That's a major deal for him.
Yeah, and they don't really sell bikes that much in North America, so they wanted him on the world stage.
Sure. Great
and
marketing
he's-
plan for him, though.
Right, and I mean, he's right in East Troy, Wisconsin.
Sure.
It's just outside of Milwaukee.
Sure.
So we have, plus we got Harley Davidson. So,
yeah. We got quite a bit of motorcycle
Right.
racing here.
right. So one of the great things we've got, this was a long-winded way for me of getting into us, is every year when the AMA Superbike Series is at Road America, there's a half-mile dirt track race at the Sheboygan County Fairgrounds in Plymouth, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And it's a half-mile track. It's a big-time professional race.
Okay.
They normally put about 7,000 people in the stands. So,
That's a big deal.
yeah, and we are the title sponsor for that this year. It's called the Dairyland Classic.
Dairyland Classic. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully the weather will hold.
Right. That is always this weather has just killed us this year. So that's I got to get up there and watch some of the racing and get some of them on tape and stuff like that.
And AMA Superbike, of course, is the fastest production bikes
Love it.
available.
Love it.
And then-
I can sit there and watch. My wife will be like, "What the hell are you watching?" I'm like, "Superbike."
Well, I mean, if you've never been to Road America, there's I don't know what I've raced it so many times I can't even remember, but it's between turn 3 and turn 5.
Okay.
Turn 4 is just this little nothing.
Okay.
It's almost straight. So between turn 3 and turn 5, Road America's huge. Most road racing courses are only 2 miles.
Okay.
Road America's 4 miles.
Okay.
So
they double
it's
the
got
size of the
big, big straightaways. 4 miles, 14 turns. And one of those straightaways is downhill.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't
And
know that. That's got to be.
and it's protected from the wind because it's got trees on either side.
Huh.
And at the bottom of it is a left-hand turn that's about 95 degrees.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more than 90 degrees.
Okay.
And then it goes up a hill.
Okay. Wow.
So,
I thought that thing was kind of all level. I didn't know it just.
oh no, Road America goes up and down.
Oh.
And this particular spot on the back straight, you can go right up to the fence and you're in the trees and these bikes are going right past you. And they're going 190 miles an hour. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
you know,
Right.
I don't care who you are, if you don't get a rush out of that.
Right. Right. Don't think you're doing it on the street. That's what.
Yeah.
That's the place to do.
Oh yeah, and I mean, in these guys' corner, they're not dragging a knee nowadays; they're dragging elbows too.
Right.
It's just
Right.
unbelievable.
Right. Just the technique and the showmanship and the riding skill that they have, that level is it blows me away. I think that's really I really, when I'm watching it because I'm just watching them go around that track and dragging elbows and stuff. Man,
They're great athletes.
man,
They're great
unbelievable.
athletes. And they work hard at it.
Right.
You know, they take it serious.
Right.
So we're really happy. We're going to be around the AMA Superbike races at the Dairyland Classic.
Okay.
The next weekend,
Okay.
we're going to be at the Vintage races.
Oh wow.
Which are cool. It's more of a club thing, friends and family kind of thing.
Sure.
We got the flat track races going on. We got a bunch of charity events. We
Sure.
got 3 bike nights a week minimum.
Right.
Iron Horse Hotel and Quaker Steak and
Right,
Lou.
right. Upscale. I
And-
tease Kai about Iron Horse.
Yeah.
Upscale biking, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. Hey, everyone's welcome.
Right, right.
The guy who owns the place, Tim, is the real deal. He's just a
Right,
great
right.
guy.
Well, no knock to it, but it's a beautiful hotel.
Yeah.
The way they redid that building and whatnot. I remember when that building just sat there, and
Yeah.
it's not anything.
The man had a vision, and it changed the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was really
It did.
cool.
It did. It definitely, because it's a warehouse district anyway, you know. So, big.
Well,
big
now it's
shop.
right by the Harley Museum.
Right.
He bought that building before they announced they were going to build the Harley Museum. Talk about
Stroke the luck.
yeah. So yeah, we're going to be pretty busy with all that.
Yeah, it
And,
seems like y'all gonna be all over the place.
you know, we've got this last winter. We weren't a sponsor, but we were a supporter of the Mama Tried motorcycle show. That was an indoor motorcycle show.
Just recently here.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
And
had
then-
it at the warehouse down.
Right.
Right.
The warehouse next to the Iron Horse Hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they got 6,000 people.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I would have been one if I wouldn't have got caught working.
Yeah.
You know.
So that was, I think, on a Saturday.
Right.
So the Sunday after that, they were ice racing at McKinley Marina.
Now here's the thing.
Yeah.
I got them practicing down at McKinley Arena the day before, and I'm working, and they're like, "Come on, man!" I said, "Look, I can justify a lot of things while I'm working. This I
Oh,
can't."
they'd have given you a lap. They'd have
Oh,
tossed you a helmet and given you a lap.
They were ready. They were like, "You take whatever one you want." And I was like, "I can't justify this." But if I wasn't working, I would look like a blast.
So back in the day, I tried my hand at ice racing.
Okay.
And I only did it a couple times, but I still have the ice bike.
Oh.
And so I wasn't riding it, I handed it off and we had some guys racing my ice bike.
Okay. Now, what kind of bike is that?
Suzuki DRZ 400.
Okay. Okay.
Nothing, well, it's pretty well hot rodded, but it's
As
not
far
an
as engine
expensive
works
bike.
go, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it high compression, piston, bored out, clutch kit,
Sure.
pipes, jets.
And how they doing on that?
They're having fun. Yeah.
I tell you, that looks like great fun, especially for us bikers that are cooped up in the wintertime and the snow and everything. Hey, this is something to do.
Ice bikes hook up. If you think that that's crazy, these guys will be slipping and sliding all over the place. Ice bikes with those spike tires hook up.
Oh yeah,
You
I
can
watched
do
it.
anything on it.
I watched it and I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that.
Yeah.
I got to do that. That looked like fun. That would have took the edge off of the long winter.
Yeah. So I've got a full season of bicycle racing planned,
Sure.
mountain bike racing. So
You kind of just stick that in between some of the other stuff that you do?
it's going to be every other weekend starting May the 4th.
Okay.
So we're going to be at the Slimy Crud Run outside
Slimy
of Madison.
Crud? Yeah.
I'm not going to personally be there because I'm going to be at a bicycle event.
Okay.
Okay. But I know a lot of people don't see motorcycles and bicycles going together, but I
can
do.
see it. Yeah.
I do.
I can see it, especially with the type of experience that you have with different types of racing. I can see that, in bicycle racing.
The really, really good racers that I admire train on bicycles.
Sure.
So they can have the kind of physical fitness they need to really ride those motorcycles fast.
And where'd you get the motorcycle racing from? Bicycle racing.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Just being a gearhead from birth, I guess.
Right. Well, I mean, just overall history of motorcycles come from that bicycle racing in the wooden tracks and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I was like, I see it right away. They go hand in hand.
Some of my favorite racers done very well. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Bostrom brothers, Eric and Ben Bostrom. Great motorcycle racers.
Okay.
AMA Superbike champions.
Okay.
They retired from AMA Superbike and started racing bicycles professionally. Very successful at it.
I bet. I bet.
One of our favorite racers, I'd love to do some kind of, one race sponsorship deal with her, but it's maybe a little bit big time for us, is Elena Myers. She rides Triumph 600. She's the only woman who has ever, she won the Daytona race a few years back.
Right.
She's a great racer. She's a big time bicyclist. That's how she stays fit.
Sure. Sure.
I think it goes together great. The other thing motorcycles and bicycles have in common is the knuckleheads in cars and trucks talking on their cell phones who are out there and they're gonna knock you down.
Right. Because they're not paying attention.
They're not paying attention. They look right at you and they don't see you.
Right. Right.
That's a common experience.
Just today I had that and I'm in the truck and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Really? And that's what causes all the problems. The distractions that we have on the road these days, unbelievable.
And you know how motorcyclists get hurt. People pull out of driveways in front of you. People pull off of side streets in front of you. People turn left in front of you.
Yeah, the hard stops in front of you.
And people rear end you.
Yeah.
The same thing happens to bicycle riders.
Yeah. I can see it. Yeah. And that's a big thing we're fighting with all the distractions and stuff with these drivers out here, not paying attention. Everybody's paying attention to their damn cell phone.
Yeah. It's not that hard to put a Bluetooth on. You don't have to hold the damn thing up to your head.
Right. And most of the modern cars that you're buying now, they automatically have the Bluetooth in there.
I know
So
mine
you just
does.
get them program them, and then you're off. And then they've got all kinds of devices. If you don't want the Bluetooth in your ear, all you have to do is get the little Belkin device, and you got Bluetooth in your car, even if it didn't come with Bluetooth, so you can talk to your car. So there's no excuse.
There is no excuse.
There's absolutely no excuse until it's one of their loved ones.
Yeah.
Now they want something done.
So what happens, if that happens, I mean, we're here to fight for people.
Gotcha.
That's what we do. We say that if someone puts you down or if someone writes you up, we got your back.
Right, we got you covered. Well, at any point you have any burning issues that you need to bring across and get some medium time on, you're welcome to come back.
Appreciate the opportunity.
It's very important what you do.
I love telling those stories.
It's very important. So with that, we're going to shut this one down, and when he does some bicycle racing, we'll get some of those stories too.
All right.
This has been another segment of Real Riders Ride. As always, I will see you on the road.